Hey makers, this is Dhruvin and this time I come up with another brand new video on Copilot Studio. Today in this episode we are going to talk about how we can get started with MCP Server into Copilot Studio. So again, very interesting concept and very brand new concept. That first of all, let's try to understand what do we mean by MCP Server, what kind of use cases we can achieve with that, and how we can get started completely from scratch. So without further delay, let's get started. So first of all, let me talk about the session agenda that I'm going to cover up throughout this particular session. Almost it is a long video, but stay tuned in the end so you will get end to end about the MCP server within the Copilot Studio. So first of all, I'm going to start my journey with the MCP server's introduction. What do we mean by that? What type of MCP components are there? What are the different use cases you can solve with this particular scenario? And what are the out of the box MCP servers available within the Copilot Studio? And we will create our own custom connection for the MCP server using the custom connector within the Copilot Studio. We'll talk about that as well. So complete end-to-end practical scenario we are going to uncover into this episode. So without further delay, let's get started. But before that, it's a humble request. If you haven't followed me on my Twitter and Instagram so far, do follow me over there because these are the platform where I'm uploading short content on the Power Platform. So make sure you follow me on my Instagram and Twitter. All the links are available in the description box over here. So first of all, let me talk about what do we mean by MCP server and what do we achieve with the help of MCP server integration within the Copilot Studio. So MCP means Model Context Protocol. This is introduced by a company Anthropic. Now the question arises in our mind that why there is a concept of MCP, why we require that, right? So let me tell you one scenario over here. We all are using the mobile phones, and in mobile phones nowadays you can see that it's a USB-C charger we are using, right? And nowadays many companies are adopting the USB-C concept because it's a universal charger. And what happens is no matter what kind of devices you are using, whether you are using the Android device, whether you are using the iOS devices, even the latest version of the iPhone also adopted the USB-C. So within the single pin of that charger, you can charge your multiple devices, even your laptops, your any electronic device nowadays are using the USB-C concept, right? So with the universal charger, you can simply recharge that. Now the similar concept over here is with the AI model as well. Now before I move myself to the AI model, let me tell you one more interesting concept over here. We all know about the HTTP protocol, right? HTTP protocol is web-based protocol. So generally when you are writing any website in your browser URL, you are using HTTP. Let's say my website is www.powerplatformtrainings.com, right? So when you use the HTTP protocol and use that particular website address, usually we open the web page for my website, right? Now the thing is that HTTP is the protocol for the web hosting, right? Now just imagine in AI model, nowadays different companies are having their own model. Let's say for an example, ChatGPT has their own model, which is ChatGPT GPT-5 or GPT-4o or GPT-5o. Different type of models are there, right? Let's say for an example, similar way, Claude, they are having the different models like Sonnet model. Google, they have their own model called Gemini, right? So different companies are having their own different large language model. Now just imagine some scenarios where you as an organization have built your own custom model. Let's say for an example, you are a company who is providing the weather services, right? And let's say for an example, you have built your own AI model to provide some information on the weather, right? Now let's say for an example, as a consumer, let's say my company is building some custom application and in which I wanted to pull out the weather information. So rather than building from the scratch, I can use the MCP server provided by that weather connector and simply use that MCP server and simply call it out from my agent and it will give me the information, right? So MCP is acting like that. MCP is a thing which you can ready-made consume in any of your AI model or any of your client application which you are building upon, right? So it's a boon for us. Like I can say the concept is similar like APIs, but APIs are like endpoint based, right? But MCP is mainly like a large language model base. So it supports the natural language, it supports all the tools, all the methods, all the knowledge source that you have used for large language model to train, as well as all the prompts that is also working within the MCP. Okay, so this is like a simple backstory I have given to you, that what exactly do we mean by MCP, so you can relate this term more, right? Now just imagine, many times, airline companies are having their own LLM trained for different kind of variations like ticket pricing or what kind of traffic that they are having on their website, and depending on that they are increase or decrease the airfare or fluctuate their pricing over there, right? Now the thing is that, let's say for an example, there are many third-party websites also available which is doing the comparison of the airfare from this website versus this website, or some sort of product reviewer companies where they are comparing this product versus this product, right? So how they are doing that, or to support the AI within that, each companies are having their own AI models with some certain set of methods, certain set of prompts, certain set of knowledge sources, right? So the thing is that, let's say as a consumer, when I wanted to consume that already trained model, I don't need to do it from scratch. I can simply get that MCP and simply make it happen from my client application wherever I'm wanted that piece of information as in a natural language, and get it from that, right? So MCP is like a USB-C for AI application, a universal connector between large language model and external resources that you are thinking, right? So this is like a baseline for MCP. Now let's talk about the different MCP component. Again, little bit we are doing theory right now, right? We are having the practical demonstration as well, but it's very important to know about all this theory, because using that you can simply understand this concept well. Okay, now let me talk about the MCP component. So generally, again, like whenever we are working with the MCP within the Copilot Studio, it's not only as a Copilot developer your duty to build the whole MCP, because MCP server development require itself some sort of coding knowledge. MCP server can be developed and deployed on any platform. You can develop within the Python, you can develop within the Spring, you can develop with the Java based framework, you can build it with the C# based framework, and then you can host it anywhere you want, right? So the thing is that our main goal is consumption of the MCP. Okay, but before we do the consumption of the MCP, we need to understand some base terminology which is very, very important to understand the overall MCP architecture. So generally in MCP, the main component of MCP is LLM, which is large language model. It can be anything. It can be your OpenAI model, it can be your Gemini model, it can be your Sonnet model, it can be any of your cloud model, it can be any model that you build custom, right? So large language model, that is the first component of the MCP, which is the heart of the app, and basically that is make the smart decision. Because generally what happens is, when you are using the MCP, people are making the prompt in the natural language, and to understand that natural language prompt, that LLM is becoming as a heart of the whole system, whole architecture. And then we are having MCP client and MCP server. This is again a very simple terminology. It's nothing complicated over here. Client and server. You know how in the API we are having the client server mechanism. It depends that when you are calling from, that's called as your client, and server means where it's developed, where it's hosted, and from where your security being placed, from where it's getting the output. Basically that a whole activity is happening at your server end, right? So MCP client is basically act as the interface for the LLM to discover and use the tool. So as I said, it's like a UI, or it's like a front end. Client can be anything. It can be from your Copilot Studio, it can be from your Teams chatbot, it can be any of the third-party chatbot that you are building upon. That can be your client, right? In our case, as we are using the Copilot Studio end-to-end over here, Copilot Studio will consider as a client in our case. Okay, so MCP client is what in our case? It will be Copilot Studio, from where we are calling our MCP server. Okay, and MCP server is basically host the tools, resources, and prompt. Generally now here I'm considering three significant word over here, like tools, resources, and prompts. That are not something really new which is coming into the AI world, right? Because if you know the Copilot Studio, Let me tell you, and let me just show you the screen so you will get a better understanding around that as well. So basically, when you are going for any of the Copilot Studio for yourself, generally you can see the knowledge source. So that knowledge source is nothing but where you can add basically your different knowledge sources over here. So that can act as a resources. It can be your public facing website, or it can be your SharePoint, or it can be your own custom database. That is called as a resources. Okay. Tools, we already know in the Copilot Studio terminology what is tool. Tool can be anything. It can be your connector action, it can be your custom connector, it can any of the things that you are calling within, that is considered as a tool in the Copilot Studio. And what do we mean by prompts over there? So within the tool itself, there is an option over there for making some sort of prompt. So where you can have your own prompt, and depending on the prompt, it is giving you the appropriate output. And it is again using any of the AI model. It can be whether the GPT model or Sonnet model or Gemini model. It can be anything, right? Now the thing is that the similar concept is there in the MCP, and that's how, you know, the Microsoft, if you know the Copilot Studio around 1.5 years back, it was a different terminology, but with the introduction of the MCP, they have slightly changed the little bit terminology itself, because any MCP server has mainly the three elements within that. Tools means any of the functions or actions. Resources means any of the knowledge sources that is used to train the model, and any of the prompt that can be reused by the LLMs. Okay, so basically MCP server consists three things: tools, resources, and prompts. But at this point, when you are consuming any MCP server within the Copilot Studio, it only supports tools and resources. Prompts are not supported at this point. Okay, but hopefully in the future it will support. Today is 25th of October when I'm recording this episode. At the time it is only supporting tools and resources, but maybe in the future when you check that, maybe it supports the prompt as well, because almost around 4-5 months back it was not even supporting resources, but nowadays it's supporting that because their official documentation has been changed according to that. So you need to consider that aspect over here as well. Okay, so this is like a base idea about what's main part of the MCP component, like large language model, MCP client, and MCP server. Okay, and within the MCP server, three terminology: tools, resource, and prompt. Again, within the Copilot Studio, you already know about this particular terminology. Now, before we get started with our actual demonstration of building the MCP server integration within the Copilot Studio, let me talk about some of the real life use cases where this MCP server is really helpful. This is one GitHub repository which is awesome MCP servers. This is the perfect example where you can find out the ready-made MCP server for yourself. Now the thing is that this MCP server should be hosted on an appropriate environment. Whether you can host it on your local system, or you can host it on a cloud platform where MCP servers can be hosted. But if you wanted to know more information, you can always visit this particular link over there. I'm providing this link in the description box. So different kind of languages like C# or Python or TypeScript are used in develop the different MCP server from the scratch. Here we are not going to build MCP server from scratch. The reason is that, as I said at the very beginning, that MCP server integration is not only your duty. It's sometimes like as a low code person, as a Copilot Studio person, when you are consuming the MCP server, your thing is like, okay, you need to know how you can integrate that within your Copilot Studio. How it is building behind the scene, it requires some sort of code knowledge. Okay, so these are the these I'm just showing you just for your reference. So you know, if you are keen to build your own MCP server and then wanted to call that MCP server within your Copilot Studio, you can use it out. But these are the different MCP servers available. Like let's say for an example, here you can see that there are different MCP servers ready-made available for different activity like art and culture, or maybe biology or medicine. You know, these are some ready-made MCP already built in over here. Like let's say for an example, if I'm opening any of the MCP server from this GitHub repository, you can find that this is what is all about, like Synergy Edge MCP. So what exactly it does, it is just providing you that information, and they have provided you some sort of steps as well, like if you wanted to deploy it out and and install it out in a local machine and wanted to consume it out, how you can do it out over here. And this is using some large language model called Gemini over here, and it requires some API and all, right? But this is like a base fundamental. We are not going into too much detail about that. But similar way, like just assume that MCP server is available, and now once the MCP server is available, how you can utilize that within your Copilot Studio, that's something I'm going to talk about. Okay, and for that I'm going to take an example of Microsoft Learn MCP server. So generally what happen here is, this is my Copilot agent that I have created, and now what we are doing is we are going to connect our MCP server. Now there are different ways to connect the MCP server. So when you go to the tools option within your Copilot Studio, there is an option available over here called add a tool. And when you click on add a tool, there is a dedicated section available over here called MCP over here, called model context protocol. Okay, click on that. When you click on MCP over here, model context protocol over here, you can see that there are so many out of the box MCP connector also available. So generally what happened here is Microsoft themselves hosted many MCP server, which you can simply plug and play and consume it in a natural language format. So many popular MCP server connectors are like a Dataverse MCP server, then DocuSign MCP server. You can see the Dynamics 365 Contact Center MCP server, Dynamics 365 Conversation Orchestrator, Box MCP server, Content Management of MCP server, Dynamics 365, right? So these are all the out of the box MCP server available. Or even you can see that meeting management MCP server for Outlook is also available over here. We will see in some of the next episode that how this out of the box MCP server works over there. Okay. But this is the idea. Like at this point, this many of MCP servers are available. Don't consider this one and this one. This is my own custom MCP server that I built up for myself. But rest of them you can see on the screen is a ready-made plug and play MCP server. Now the thing is that they are constantly increasing this list. So more and more companies are tying up with the Microsoft, and their MCP servers are available. It is available as a part of this MCP section over here into this particular tool part. All right. Now we need to consider a couple of aspects over here, that let's say for an example, the one APIs or one of the third party MCP server, if you want to integrate within your Copilot agent, then how you can do it out. Okay, so the easiest way to connect your third party MCP server is click on new tool over here, and there is an option available called MCP. Just click on that. So when you click on the MCP over here, basically it is asking you a couple of information over here, that you need to provide the server name for MCP protocol, server description over there, server URL. I mean here you need to provide the streamable endpoint where it's being hosted. Okay, so if you are already having that information, you can supply it over here, and from here you need to provide the authentication, like whether it's a API key or OAuth 2, what kind of authentication you are having, and you can simply connect it out over here. But hosting is required for that. Okay, this is one way of doing it. All right, there is another way of connecting MCP as well, which I'm going to showcase you now. All right, for that what we need to do is we simply create the custom connector for the available JSON, and simply we will add that custom connector directly within our Copilot agent, and simply try to consume those endpoints as an MCP server over here in the Copilot agent. Okay, so let's get started with that. So Microsoft has already provided the custom connector JSON for Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is again a popular website to search the different documentation and all. So we are going to consume that over here. For that, we need to do simply one thing for ourselves. We simply need to create our own custom connector for the MCP over here, and for that I'm simply going to make.powerapps.com and simply clicking on custom connector, and for that I'm clicking on new custom connector over here, and I'm using simply OpenAPI file in order to build my own custom connector. All right, if you need this OpenAPI file, I will provide the download link over here in the description box. You can download it over there and simply practice around that as well. This is the ready-made OpenAPI file. People who are from Power Platform background, they know what is custom connector already. Okay, so I'm not going into too much detail around custom connector for MCP. It's just a matter that any if I just give you a quick idea about the custom connector, it's nothing but most of the time what happens is any popular API providers, like let's say for an example, I'm searching over here for Workday. Okay, Workday is again a popular product. Okay, And generally what happen here is any particular API provider in the custom connector world, they are having their own REST API reference over here. So let's say for an example, whenever I'm opening the REST directory over here, they generally offer you OpenAPI schema, and that OpenAPI schema you can directly consume it into your custom connector. And that is not the only way. There are multiple ways to create the custom connector. You can start from the blank, or you can have it from OpenAPI or URL or Postman. From anywhere you can consume it out. Okay, but here I'm going to use one of the official Microsoft site where they already hosted their MCP server, and they are providing the OpenAPI definition file for that. That's something I'm going to consume it. Now how that OpenAPI definition file is looking like, that Swagger file, let me just show it to you so you will get a better understanding around that. So for that, what I'm doing here is I'm simply opening my notepad over here, and this is what my streamable HTTP MCP Swagger JSON is looking like. You can see that this is using learn.microsoft.com, and this is API -MCP, and this is the streamable HTTP. So for MCP server to be integrated within the Copilot Studio, it is good if you are using the streamable MCP. Now over here, what you need to do is simply you need to import an OpenAPI file. So I'm just simply importing that. So I already already have stored that particular file with me. So let me just upload that file simply. So I'm uploading Swagger file over here, and I'm just providing the name for this custom connector. So I'm just providing over here that MCP MS Learn MCP Server YouTube. Okay, and click on continue. As soon as you click on continue, it will open the custom connector interface like this. Again, all these steps are for the custom connector. So you can see that learn.microsoft.com, some sort of instruction has been provided over here. Security, no authentication because it's an open MCP server. So you can consume it out for yourself as well. Definition, it already have the invoke MCP method. So invoke MCP method is basically invoke the MCP server method, and which is exposing all the tools, all the resources, all the prompts which are part of the MCP. And you know, we don't need to do anything over here. Simply click on create connector, and basically it will create the connector for you over here. Let it to be created, and here I am. My custom connector has been created successfully over here. That's it. Let's close it from here. As soon as you create your custom connector over here, basically it will appearing underneath this section. Let me just refresh my screen. So underneath custom connector, my newly created custom connector should be populated over here. And here I am. This is what the custom connector that we created. All right. Now the thing is that we use the MCP server as a custom connector. Okay. Now that custom connector, we can simply call it from our Copilot agent. And for that, simply what we need to do here is simply let's go to the Copilot agent. Let me refresh my screen over here. And now let me just go to the tools option over here. Click on add tools from here, and as soon as you click on add tools over here, it will start showing all the connectors to you, and you can see that immediately my MCP streamable HTTP YT connector is also available for me over here. Or even if you go to the model context protocol over here as well, it will show you the custom connector that you just created over here. Let's click on that. So this is the one that I have created for myself. Let's add that custom connector over here, and this is what the MCP server streamable and connection, it is not showing at this point. Let's click on new connection, and it will create a new connection for it. Let it to be, and now the connection has been created as well. And now let's click on add and configure, and as soon as you click on add and configure, basically it will call that MCP server from your Copilot agent. Okay, and here I am. You can see that it has added that as a tool over here, and as a custom connector we have added over there for ourselves. And you can see that it always has the method that invoke MCP. right? And whenever you are having invoke MCP, you can see that behind the scene you can see the different tools. So it has the document search method, document sample search method, document fetch method. Okay, all of these things are there. So you can see that right now you are having the tools and you are having resources. There are no resources used to change that MCP model. So you can't see anything over here, but this is what it is showing to you over here. If your MCP server has used any knowledge source, it will show you that knowledge sources as well over here within this particular section. Okay, so MCP server integration is successfully done over here. So from your client, it called the invoke MCP method and it expose all the tools, all the resources, all the prompts. Prompts are not supported, but everything it is showing to you over here like this way. Okay, and it's showing over here. Now what's the beauty of this MCP server? That let's say for an example, in the future, if any of the methods are changed within the MCP server, it automatically reflects over here. You don't need to do it by your own. So generally what happens here is from this client, from this Copilot agent, we are making the call for invoke MCP, and that invoke MCP exposes all the tools over here. So let's say in future in this tool they are introducing 4 or 5 new methods. It automatically available for you. You don't need to refresh, or you don't need to republish or anything over there. It automatically changes depending on your MCP server hosting method. Okay, or any changes that you are doing at your MCP server level, when you call that particular method or from your client, it will be showing to you over here. Okay, perfect, looks good to me. All right, now let's do the testing around that. So your tool is created and you can see that your MCP server streamable HTTP is also connected over here. Now let's make some call over here. So let's say I'm just providing some information over here, Microsoft Learn usefulness. Okay, now let's see how it behaves. So when you make any particular prompt correctly, it is saying me that okay, make a connection. So let me just make a connection quickly. Although during the creation we did that, but again when we wanted to run it, we need to make sure the connection is set up. So I'm just making its connection over here, and here I am. Let me click on submit, and that connection has been happened successfully. Let it to be. Let me refresh over here and let me just retry from here. And I already used the MS Learn usefulness. So what happened here is basically based on whatever prompt that you are making over here, it will call the Microsoft Learn, and according to that you can see that it is showing you the certificate, I mean a different result over here. Okay, now let me just add some more question over there here, that how can I prepare for MCP demo. Okay, what happened here is it will look at the entire Microsoft Learn that is used to train behind the scene, and according to that it will start showing you the result over here. So you can see that it is just giving you the whole thing over there, what's the objective, what's the material, how you can practice and all good from here. Okay, so this is how the overall MCP server concept is working over here. So as a summary, MCP server is something which is to be available for you to consume within your Copilot Studio. That's the first thing. Second thing is that whenever you are using the MCP server, make sure your orchestration is enabled over there. Third important aspect you need to consider here is there are 2 ways to add the specifically the MCP servers. Either you can, if you are already having the streamable URL for yourself, you can simply utilize directly this option to consume it out. Or let's say for an example, if you don't have the streamable URL and sometimes you are having the OpenAPI definition file which is already hosted somewhere, at the time you can use the custom connector route and use that custom connector to invoke your MCP method and consume it within this interface. Okay, so that's all about the MCP server that I wanted to talk about into this episode. Now in upcoming next episode, tell me in the comment section what you wanted to see next as an MCP. Maybe I am going to cover up some of the out of the box MCP server which are already available over here. So we will try to explore one by one over here into next episodes. So that's it for today. Hope this video is helping you and valuing your time. If so, hit thumbs up and subscribe my channel. It's free for you, but it motivates me in lots of other way. Also, I'm happy to announce that we are starting our new model driven application batch from 4th of November 2025. So if you are keen to learn live from me, you can always enroll over there. It is a live training program. You can always visit our website www.powerplatformtrainings.com for more information around that. Also, I have launched some premium series on different Power Platforms. So one of the premium series we launched already for deployment pipeline, and another one is for responsive canvas application. If you are keen to learn about those, you can always join our premium membership on the YouTube. Premium membership as well as live training program, both are different things. Premium membership is a very affordable. You can simply utilize this to learn some more advanced concept and some more premium content from myself. Apart from that, free content is also there. So if you want to join my channel, you can have the join button over here in my channel itself. You can simply join it from here. It's just 5,999 per month, which is less than a medium size of pizza. With that note, this is Dhruvin signing off. See you in the next episode with some amazing content. Till then, have a great day. Goodbye. And don't forget to follow me on our Twitter, Instagram, and all the social media links are available in the description box.